Hello everyone, checking back in on crypto. It's been a pretty eventful past 2 days. The leaders BTC and ETH have been running wild. There's a pretty clear inverse correlation where when those two leaders are running, the altcoins see some consolidation as money leaves those to play the big runners. And then as they consolidate, we do see money come back into the altcoins. So we can utilize that information and make trades based off of that. So here on Bitcoin, after the new all-time high, I noticed some shenanigans, so to speak, yesterday. And just when you watch so much of the bid and the ask action and the trading action, you notice things that aren't normal. And I saw something yesterday that I had not seen in the 5-6 weeks that I've been watching very consistently what this trading is doing. So I'll look at that in just a moment. But daily time frame, Bitcoin, extremely strong follow through, huge bull move to the upside. The RSI levels are not as good about telling us overbought conditions in blue sky breakout. The bulls can disregard those RSI levels a lot easier. So the bull break was very clear, and that occurred at 2600. So we look at 2600 right there. We had multiple tops, and we rejected 1, 2, 3 times. Bulls got above it. They back tested. This is the hourly chart. They back tested and held it, dipped below it. Bulls bought the dip, held the support, and then they just absolutely broke out. And we saw a huge move to the upside. The RSI on the hourly got all the way up into the upper 80s. We did form a bearish reversal inverted hammer and then saw a significant profit taking. So this is why when we get into these positions of really overbought conditions, I like to flip a lot more, just be in and out. And I just did it with ETH. I'll go to that trade in just a moment. But just because I want to avoid this hour drop. And, you know, it takes this 1 hour drop gave back about 6 hours of upside. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. And we know it comes every time. It's just a matter of when. So where we stand right now, the bulls are trying to ideally hold this level of support. And that's right down here where we consolidated and then continue to the upside. That's at 2770. We'll round to 2770. So the bulls ideally want to hold that level to continue higher lows and higher highs. I do believe we're going to cool off for a while now after 2 days of straight upside, and there is an upper wick forming on the daily time frame showing a bit of profit taking. We'll have to see the size of that upper wick as we head into the end of the day. Obviously a very strong move for these bulls. I was watching what appeared to me like big money keeping ETH pinned down yesterday while BTC ran and while it ran to the all-time high. And I'll go over ETH and then I'll go over into the specifics there. So ETH, really strong bull move. We had the inside bar on the daily time frame. The bull break occurred at 227.50, and it's been a straight shot to the upside ever since. And on the hourly time frame, lots of signals here for the bulls. First one being, I pointed it out in the last video, it was back here, just under 227.50. Then we had another bull signal here. This is where I was watching the price get stifled, so to speak. And what was happening is we had a ton of ETH on the ask. That's not surprising. That's not signaling manipulation. But there were thousands of them. It was ending up being millions of dollars here in play. But there were thousands of ETH on the ask, and we continually chipped away, buying those asks. And I would say we got through about 90% of the asks, which was, you know, almost a couple $1 million. And right before we made the bull break, you can see how tight we were here against this resistance. We rejected, higher low, rejection, higher low. As soon as we saw the bulls get close to taking out the rest of those asks and seeing an all-time high breakout, we dumped and we started dumping into the bid. And we saw thousands of ETH in 200 share blocks knocking into the bid, taking them all out and dropping the price all the way down to 241, dropping it $8. So why that is unusual action is because, number one, you have bulls buying at the ask for hours and hours and hours in a row. No one in their right mind is just going to out of nowhere dump at the bid. They're going to continue trying to sell at the ask and to lock in that profit if that is what their goal was. So in my opinion, big money was keeping the price contained while Bitcoin ran to the all-time high. It saw that most of the asks at the wall of the asks were bought, and as soon as they were close to breaking, they used whatever storage they had of thousands of other ETH and slammed into the bid to knock the price down. We then made a recovery, we rejected again, and it took a long time. Rather than this normal pattern, if that play were not involved, I would expect a bull break to have occurred back here at about 10 or 11 at, let's see, this was 10 or 11 p.m. on June 4th. Instead, it took another couple dozen hours before the bull break occurred. And it was really right after Bitcoin got its all-time high and then started to consolidate, and then the money came right back into ETH. So I got into this position just below 249, the all-time high, looking for that new all-time high, and I was watching the Bitcoin run without me, the bull run, and I'm sitting there saying, oh man, I want to get into Bitcoin, I want to sell here, but I was watching the manipulation that was going on, and I was saying to myself, okay, if I were to exit right now and try and jump on this Bitcoin train, ETH is going to break out right after I leave. I'm going to sit tight. I know that there's manipulation going on here. It makes no sense to me that whoever is manipulating this isn't going to run ETH to a new all-time high once they're done with Bitcoin, because we're sitting right on the verge, and we know every time we get an all-time high, we get a nice, $5 to $10 move to the upside very easily. So that's what happened all at once, and then we had a really nice move. I held ETH overnight again, checking every few hours to make sure everything went according to plan. This was a very solid bull flag. I was very comfortable holding during this consolidation. That is essentially a perfection bull flag, where you have parallel support and resistance lines after a big bull move to the upside. So the bull move is the flagpole, and the parallel channel, as we consolidate on very low declining bear volume, that's your flag, and then you get the continuation pattern, which is what it indicates, a continuation pattern. So we were watching today, I was playing it again this morning, and I made an exit. Let's see, I exited in the low 261s as I was about to go live on webcam, and it's very, very distracting to try and trade and try and answer questions at the same time. And so I exited at the low 261s. I saw the bulls still had strength. I saw the bulls chip away at this 265 wall. So I said, oh man, the bulls still have strength. They're about to run it again. So I just sat there patiently, and I had my market order filled out. And as soon as the 1,500 ETH wall got down to about 400 or so, I placed my order and took out the last of that wall. And then very instantly, we see a move up to a $4 move. And I captured maybe $2.50 of that, just a quick flip. I was literally holding it, 15 minutes, and just looking to tack on a few extra $100 because I did miss some of the upside because I did have to go live. But just an example of when I would use a market order compared to limit. If I have a lot more focus and I'm catching a support, I'm using a limit. But if I am breaking a resistance and trying to get an all-time high push to the upside, that is where I will use a market order. And granted, those fees add up. If I've spent over $300 on one trade in fees before, so it certainly does add up. But in certain scenarios, it's worth it because it didn't compare. Well, it certainly was comparable, but the profit on this trade outweighed the fees of that. So right now we're seeing ETH and BTC consolidate after such a significant bull run, and I'm going to be looking for the hourly charts to consolidate because these RSI levels are very overbought, up in the mid 80s, upper 80s, and now we're pulling back. So we're going to look for a new higher low to be established. Bitcoin, same thing. Watching the hourly time frame, try and cool off this RSI coming from the 80s. It's a lot cooler in Bitcoin right now. So the bullish entry will present itself in Bitcoin before ETH, in my opinion. But again, with this consolidation, I'm watching some of these altcoins, and let's look in at the hourly time frame for Golem here. And these past 2 hours is when we started to see consolidation start in ETH and BTC. So a little bit of upside here. And the great thing about holding these altcoins is currently where we stand, I'm a little bit below my average position, but I'm up over 10% in my position because Bitcoin has been running, and the underlying here being tied to Bitcoin, it certainly sees benefit. So actually at this point, it's now about 15% in my account, when really my average is at about 19 compared to where we currently stand, maybe the upper 18. So that's always a nice thing where you're sitting in an altcoin, and although your altcoin's not really doing much, it is gaining in value because BTC is running. So we're looking at Golem, and I'll look at Litecoin in just a moment. But the daily chart here, we're pretty much in a channel between the upper 20s and the 17s. We've bounced off the 17s twice, holding those levels, and we've rejected a bunch of times from the 20s. The hourly time frame became really close to making a bull break here, and we started to break some of these lower highs. We have a very clear spike and sell-off pattern where bulls are locking in their profit pretty quickly. Then we started to form higher lows and higher highs, but this dump here, this was when Bitcoin and Ethereum started to run very significantly. And in my opinion, this is everybody exiting and hopping into those leaders. And I do believe that the money is going to flow back into the altcoins a bit if we do see some more prolonged consolidation in Bitcoin and ETC. Checking in on Litecoin. Again, I'm not a big fan of Litecoin, but it is giving nice, clear signals where we have inside bars, bull break, inside bars, bull break, and now we're consolidating a bit. So we are still seeing a lower high pattern from the all-time high, 38.91, 35.88, and now 31.80. But we also, well, actually, we don't have too many higher lows because this low did break to a lower low. So I don't like the daily setup compared to these other names that are such clear bulls. We have a lot more resistance to be working with. My main problem with LTC is liquidity. It's a lot harder for me to enter and exit positions. There have been times where I've been in a position and I've wanted to get out to jump into something else. And for me to exit, if I were to, there's no, buying at the ask. And if I were to sell at the bid, I would really give up about 3% just knocking out because there was no bids in terms of size of LTC. It's just the lack of liquidity makes it much more difficult to get in and out. I want to be able to get in and out whenever I want without taking a significant hit because my order is taking out a ton of bids. So we're consolidating a bit on LTC, looking at the hourly time frame, and we have an equilibrium pattern with our high, low, lower high, and the bulls must form a higher low compared to 29.66. If we break 29.66, that is a bear break, and we would be looking for further consolidation from there. So this is the range on that equilibrium pattern I'd be watching right now, and we'll be watching for a break of that range. So all in all, where we stand, huge gains over the past 2 days for Bitcoin and Ethereum. Congrats to any of the bulls. We are now consolidating, and we will look to consolidate, form a higher low, see it bounce, likely form a lower high, and again, see an equilibrium pattern tighten up after all of this bullish action. And I am continuing to hold my position in GNT. I'm looking to hold through June. I'm looking to have an addition to Coinbase be a catalyst for my sell the news exit. We'll see how that plays out. But again, even though it's stagnant, not doing much, definitely seeing gains due to the Bitcoin upside. So I'm continuing to jump in and out of Bitcoin and Ethereum and putting some profits into some of these altcoins and just playing it as it comes. So that's what we've got heading into the rest of the week. I appreciate you all watching, and we'll be back soon.